Guys, welcome to the J. Scott Outdoors podcast. As you know, my good friend Jason Hairston, the founder of KUIU Ultralight Hunting, has passed away within a matter of days ago. And the whole hunting community is in shock. All his family and friends obviously are in shock, and we're just so distraught about the tragedy that's happened. And I've tried on my Instagram account some of the hunts that I was on with Jason. I have tried to bring out some of those videos where people could see the guy that he was, and just try and shed light on some of the things that he accomplished and that he did. And I had got to thinking, I had done a bunch of podcasts with Jason, and so what I'm going to do is I'm going to go back and find some of the better podcasts that I did with Jason, and I'm going to bring them back to you. And I think I've been listening to them myself, and I've gotten a lot of value out of them. And I've been able to reminisce about Jason and the guy that he was and the passion that he had for the hunting business. And I just think a lot of people are going to get a lot of value out of listening to what he had to say, whether you're building a business, whether you're hunting, whether you're, whatever you're doing. I think there's lots of great tidbits throughout these podcasts. So, guys, on Instagram, I love the hashtag KUIU Strong. And I also, Jason's family has asked in lieu of flowers or anything like that to donate to the CTE studies and foundation. They're studying the effects of CTE, and I'm going to put a link for that in these show notes. And to all of Jason's, to the whole KUIU Nation, to Jason's family and friends. Um, this is a very, very difficult time, and I thought one of the best ways to highlight some of the things that Jason has done is to bring back his own voice and to replay some of these podcast episodes. So it's going to be tough to listen to, but I think in listening to all of these, I've just gotten a new appreciation for some of the things that he stood for and what have you. I want to thank you guys, the listeners, for this podcast, your loyalty to this podcast. And I also want to thank the sponsors of this podcast. Obviously, KUIU, Ultralight Hunting, KUIU.com. Jason Hairston and his whole crew over there at KUIU has been a sponsor of my podcast for many years now. And I want to thank them for their sponsorship. And I want to let you guys know that Jason surrounded himself with a great team, and he's got a great staff over at KUIU. And yes, losing the founder, losing the president, Jason was a huge part of the success at KUIU, but he does have a phenomenal team. The team is rallying. I was over there for the funeral and was able to talk with a lot of the employees and a lot of the staff at KUIU, and they are rallying. They are going to help Jason's legacy live on, and I think they're going to do a phenomenal job. So I appreciate all of you guys' support, the KUIU Nation support of KUIU, and I want to thank KUIU for their sponsorship of the podcast. You can go to KUIU.com and check out all of the different products there. And I also want to thank GoHunt.com. Cody Nelson, who is the glassing guru and the optics authority, is the new optics manager at GoHunt.com Gear Shop. You can call Cody directly for info sales at 702-847-8747, extension 2, or email Cody at optics, OPTICS, at GoHunt.com. Cody has promised me that he's going to take care of the J. Scott Outdoors listeners, so make sure to give Cody a call if you have any optics needs, whether it's spotting scopes, binoculars, rifle scopes, tripods, etc. Also, Canyon Coolers. Use the J. Scott promo code to get a 10% off all Canyon Coolers products. Go to canyoncoolers.com. Canyoncoolers.com. Use the J. Scott promo code to get 10% off all orders. Guys, let's get right to these episodes, and I appreciate your support. Welcome to the J. Scott Outdoors podcast. Today we have an awesome guest. We have Jason Hairston, the founder and president of KUIU. Jason, how you doing?
Doing great. I'm doing great. A little worn out from trade show season, and this time of year the grind is challenging at times. I'm not home much, and so happy to be in the office today and happy to be talking to you.
That's awesome, buddy. Yeah, we've been able to share a couple hunts over the last, I guess about the last year and a half. We were down in Mexico Coues deer hunting, and then we also I got to come along with you on the elk hunt up in Montana, and on both hunts had two fantastic hunts and had a great time with you.
Yeah, those were super memorable for sure.
Yeah. Jason, for the listeners that maybe haven't heard of KUIU, which there's probably none, give me like a 30,000 foot elevation flyover of KUIU and the beginnings of KUIU and kind of why you started KUIU. Tell me about that.
So for those of you who don't know my background, I started Sitka in my garage in 2004 with my business partner, Jonathan. We were on a hunt together, and we were complaining about the choice of products and gear that we could find at Cabela's, and talked about the amazing gear you could find at REI or backpacking or mountaineering stores, and came up with the concept to take that type of gear and put it in camouflage and sell it as a layering system into the hunting market. And what was literally just a dream, a pipe dream, we turned into reality just out of stubbornness and I wanted to do something that I was passionate about versus just something to make money. And we scrambled to put together a product line and sample line in 2004 and took it to SHOT Show and got picked up by Sinead's catalog out of Bozeman, Montana, which had targeted because of who bought their boots. And one thing led to another, and we got the stuff made, and Sitka was obviously an instant success and grew incredibly fast. And in 2009, I had the opportunity to exit the company as Gore-Tex bought it. And having built a really fast-growing brand, having created the market segment for technical apparel and layering systems, which hunting didn't have before Sitka, I was able to realize all the downsides to selling into the retail channels, the traditional channels, and how hard it was to sell innovative products and to make innovative products, and how challenged the retailers were to add value to the buying process for the consumer and market and sell really, really high-end technical pieces. And I had come across a fabric supplier called Torre, who we work closely with for KUIU, and the fabrics are amazing. I was introduced to them through a designer out of Patagonia who had built some products using Torre fabrics, and he's like, these guys are by far the best. And they were in testing the fabrics, but they're just very, very expensive. Fabrics aren't anything different than what you buy in any other market or product line. You get what you pay for. We just couldn't make the pricing work at Sitka. So when I left, I knew I wanted to create a product line using those fabrics. I couldn't get their performance and advantages out of my mind. Realized that I needed to create a different business model to do it. And that created KUIU. And really, the goal of KUIU was for me to create a business model that allowed me to get products, outerwear products made out of the Torre fabrics into our market at a price that people could actually afford. And if you find and look and research Torre, you'll find it in really high-end ski equipment, typically not even in the United States, but in Europe, where people will pay $2,000 or $3,000 for a ski jacket, or $1,000 or $2,000 for a pair of ski pants. But that's the pricing that it takes to use those fabrics if you're involving a retailer. And so my whole goal was to create a new model. I was frustrated with the challenges that the retailers created for us, and so KUIU was born with that in mind. And then having worked around those challenges and issues, solving the problems for the Torre fabrics, and it let me get into really high-end merino wools for next to skin, which we all know has significant advantages for the hunter, to get in and work with carbon fiber engineers and design and develop the world's first molded carbon fiber frame, all products that I couldn't make and design and build and sell into the traditional channels. And so, 30,000 foot view of KUIU, we are a consumer direct innovation brand that's been created to innovate and take things to market that you can't do through traditional channels.
And Jason, on that note, why does consumer direct marketing work? What makes that model work perfectly?
Well, you have to have a remarkable product that delivers as promised. That's key to me. If I delivered an average product at average pricing, KUIU would never work. We have delivered an amazing product line at prices people can't ignore and can't not talk about. So when they're able to afford the product, get in it, and wear it, they turn around and tell 10 people. And that's been the recipe for our success at KUIU is we don't spend a lot of marketing. We spend a lot on product and innovation, and then we don't have the retail markup. So it's a big challenge in a consumer direct business model is can you get enough traffic or enough eyeballs to your product or enough interest in your product at the beginning to survive. And that's what everyone told me I couldn't do when I came up with this business model and nobody wanted to back me was you'll go out of business before you can get enough customers. And the opposite's been true.
And on that note, Jason, tell me about the trepidation and fear. I mean, I know you're driven. I know you believed in what you were doing, but there had to be some fear that your marketing plan, as far as using the internet and what have you, tell me how the initial feelings were of using the internet to drive this thing and maybe some of the hurdles and fears that you faced.
Well, that's a great question. And it was a lot of my marketing was driven out of fear. When I left Sitka was, okay, I've got this idea. Now I've got this great product line. How am I going to get people to find out about it? And I never had a blog, never had created one, didn't know how to build one, but felt like that was the right platform for me to kind of start talking about my next project. And so I started this little blog called Building KUIU, and without really any intention other than kind of creating a journal and putting a post or two a week about what I was doing, some of the challenges I was coming up against, and not knowing really what I was going to do with it other than start to create the history for the business. And somebody had found it about a month or a month and a half into me starting to do these blog posts and put it up on both sites. And people started finding out about it. And what was amazing was how much interest it received, how much interaction I had with the earliest adopters about their ability to express what they liked about gear, what they didn't like about gear, the things that they were looking for from a company, from a brand, from a founder, from product. And so it just became this big interactive blog over 18 months before I launched the product of what people wanted. And
I think transparency is something that you always focus on, and talk to me a little bit about why transparency is so important to you as a brand and as a mission statement, so to speak.
Well, and the blog really let me experience this, but one great thing about KUIU is I don't have to cut corners because I don't have to hit price points. And so when I started building this brand out, I'm like, I don't know why everybody, well, I do know why other brands don't want to tell people why they're buying this fabric or that fabric or why they're making things a certain way or not making things a certain way. I was just making things with the best fabrics I could possibly find. Price didn't matter. And so I thought, let's tell the world about it. And what I found by telling the world about it was I started getting a lot of trust from our customers. And that trust built loyal customers and fans for the brand that then could turn around and take that information that I gave them to build the trust and tell their friends because they had trust in what I was doing. And that transparency has built the trust to build the brand.
Absolutely.
Hand in hand, and really revolutionizing the way businesses can launch and go into business.
Jason, tell me about other companies' approaches as far as you see it a lot in the industry that they get 4 or 5 hired guns to say XYZ is the best. I'm on the XYZ pro staff. Come see me. Tell me why your personal approach is you want to personally use the gear. You want to personally test the gear. You want to see the gear fail. You want to see the gear succeed, and you want to grow from that. Tell me how that approach is different than what you see in other companies and having a paid pro staff and that such.
Yeah, great question. I I think pro staffs, in my opinion, have lost their credibility. Guys will jump around from one brand to another, and one day they're telling you that Leica is the best, the next day they're telling you that Swarovski is the best, or Nikon, and it's kind of, in my opinion, devalued the need or usefulness of a pro staff. I'm my own worst critic and my own worst products critic, and the only way for me to really go vet product and test product is to take it into the mountains in the most challenging conditions I can find. It's why I go on a sheep hunt every single year, because that's the best way to vet products. I have guys in the office that will test it as well, but I personally test every single product we make. I also personally walk every single factory. I meet with every single factory owner we work with, every single supplier, their owners. I'm very, very hands-on as a business owner. I am meticulous about everything that goes into our products, just because I want to have complete trust in what I'm building for our customers. And the only way to do that is for me to go personally do those things. And if I outsource those aspects of the business, then I am starting to sacrifice the knowledge that I need on the decisions I make that go into our products. And to me, that's everything about the DNA of this brand.
I know that on the Coues deer hunt in last January, not this last January, but the January before when we were hunting, I know at that time you were wearing the Chinook pants and the Chinook jacket, which at the time I believe had not been launched yet. You were testing it, yep. And I can attest to the fact that you were, specifically walking through certain types of, wait a minute bush and, grab me thorn bush that's just, latching on. And, you were testing, I believe, an Ultra 6000 pack. It might have been a smaller one. I'm not sure. But, I mean, and there were things that you were specifically doing just to test gear. Talk to me about some of the gear testing that you've done. And some of the extremes that maybe you've gone to test the gear to make sure it is battle proven.
Yeah, we do a bunch of different tests. One, we collect all the fabric data that comes out of independent third-party labs on all of our fabrics. So we look at that data first, and if the fabrics don't hit the specs that we need, they're not even considered to be used. And that's one thing. You look across our product line, you'll see what we call branded fabric programs. And so you're going to see Toray, the merino company, Cordura. And I look at that as an insurance, quality insurance, that there's a brand name behind the technology that goes in the fabrics. What's amazing about this business, I can take any fabric that's branded, take it overseas, and literally within 24 hours have a knockoff of that fabric that is, from the eye and the hand, is almost impossible to tell the difference. Now you put it in a third-party lab, it'll test out different. And so that's something we do as standard, whether it's seam tape, whether it's the thread that goes into our products and the fabrics. And then we go back and we make it into products and we start beating it up. We test seam strengths, we test abrasion in a bunch of different ways. And then we do real-world field testing. And then we'll do some crazy stuff too, like we've driven trucks over our carbon fiber frames. We've loaded up a pack and thrown it off a cliff to see what happens and videoed it. We put a wind boat onto our tents and put 80-mile-an-hour winds onto our tents to see what happens and videoed that. And so we just try to put our gear in really challenging conditions and see where and if it'll fail. And that way we know when we sell it what to expect and what our customers can expect.
Absolutely. And I believe on your website, those videos on your, I believe it's KUIU Live YouTube channel, you have a lot of that testing and a lot of the throwing the pack off the cliff and the airboat video. You have that for people to see. Jason, I'm hearing reports of a research documentary that you're taking part in. Can you elaborate a little bit on what's going on?
Yeah, we're just in an initial phase. So I had a concept. Well, yeah, I guess it's a concept. I've always wanted to know how weight truly impacts physical performance in the mountains, and it's been a hard thing to measure. We know you feel better if you carry 10 less pounds in your pack, but what does that really mean, and how does that really impact our customers on a 14-day sheep hunt? And so we've reached out and contacted 2 sports science laboratories that study physical endurance, like VO2 max, lactic acid buildup, and several other measurements, like what you'd see for or hear for the Olympic training facilities. And one's in Denver, the other's in Gunnison. And the facility in Gunnison specializes in high altitude testing. So I'm going to be the guinea pig, and I'm going to go out to the lab in Denver, and we're going to baseline my VO2 max, lactic acid threshold, and a number of other tests in a laboratory setting. And then we're going to go to the high altitude testing facility in Gunnison, where they put me in a tank and adjust the altitudes. And then I'll test again with and without weight, and be able to have scientific data that will help people understand how weight impacts their performance in the mountains. So I can be better educated, and we can share that information with our customer base, saying, hey, not only will you feel better, but these are the actual results that we have found by going in and working with these scientists on why it's important to cut your toothbrush in half, or to buy the Ultra 6000 pack versus a different type of pack that may weigh more.
So you're going to be the human guinea pig. And my question to you is, Jason, why do you go to such extremes?
Curiosity. I just want to know, right? And I mean, I know it because I train a lot, and I know when I'm on the treadmill with a pack and I throw an extra 10 pounds in it, how much I have to slow down and how much more tired I might feel, or on a hunt. And it's a hard thing sometimes to explain to customers, and I just want to know the data behind it. I want to know what happens to me, and that way I can take that information and use it to make better products for our customers, help educate our customers, and I think we're a smarter and better brand if we do the homework and research to understand how our products impact them. And one of the biggest things we've done with KUIU is we've focused on reducing weight without giving up performance through design and technology, and that's been kind of the driving and underlying force for this brand. And we've shaved literally 10 to 12 pounds out of our layering system before I started the company to where we are now with our products. And so I want to know what that means.
That's fantastic. And is that going to be something you're going to provide a video down the road, or on the KUIU Live, or how will people be able to see that?
I have two videographers that I've hired there in Colorado yesterday and today, doing site interviews with all the scientists. I think we'll film it. We're trying to figure out the dates now, maybe in July, and then it's going to be a full documentary. Where it's going to air, it'll for sure be on our website and our YouTube channel. But these guys have also worked with Nat Geo and with some of the other outdoor channels, and they said they might have an interest in airing it as well, depending on how the piece comes together. So we'll see where it ends up, but obviously all of our KUIU customers will know about it.
That's fantastic, Jason. When I got to travel up to Montana, we actually met in the Salt Lake City airport, and then we flew from there on up to Montana. We happened to be on the same flight, and I think we had 4 or 5 people come up to you that recognized you and said, hey, you're the KUIU guy. And one of the things that jumped out at me is, and I've seen you do this in other situations, you sat down, put your backpack down, and started talking to these people. Tell me what, I witnessed you being genuine. I've seen you on many other occasions being genuine with your customer. Tell me what it is in your DNA that wants to talk to everybody about your product, and I can sense how genuine you are. Why is that?
I'm just a normal guy that I feel like I got lucky to be in the right place at the right time to create this market segment and get to know hunting gear. But I'm just a normal guy, and I guess it's my passion for hunting and my passion for gear, and I love what I'm doing. And if I see somebody traveling to an airport with a KUIU ball cap or a shirt, I'll literally go way out of my way to go grab them and just shake their hand and say, thank you so much for wearing our product. And it's happened. I took the kids to Disneyland last year, and there was a guy walking through the crowd with a KUIU hat on. I pushed my way through the crowd to get over to him just to say hi, and it's just because I really appreciate our customers, and I can't build this company without them, and they mean everything to us, and I have that one customer at a time mentality, and I truly care to meet every single one of them if I have the opportunity. And if I have the time, let's sit down and talk shop and let's talk about hunting. I was in Denver airport yesterday, having dinner, and a guy sat down next to me and said, "Hey, I think you're the guy that owns KUIU." And we sat and talked for 45 minutes before my flight. I just love our customers, I guess, and love what I do.
That's great stuff. Jason, out there, in every business, no matter how successful you are, obviously every business has a few critics. There has been some critique that maybe things are back ordered and that the production, sometimes is slower than the consumer wants. How do you address that publicly and maybe talk about some of the issues with, having such huge demand and how that plays out with your company?
Yeah, I'll be the first to admit, when I started KUIU after leaving Sitka and I built this business model, I thought this was going to be a slow-growing lifestyle type business. That we would be, and it would be different than what happened with Sitka, which was incredibly fast growth. We went from one retailer the first year to every single major retailer in the United States and Canada in year 2. Certainly wouldn't have and didn't plan, nor could I have planned for KUIU to grow at that rate, let alone 3 times faster than what Sitka has done, which KUIU has done. And so inventory's been a challenge. The other thing I learned with Sitka was the challenge of raising money to chase demand and what that can do to control and the long-term success and viability of business. And I wanted to do it different with KUIU. So I've had to pick our growth targets every year, and demand has exceeded our growth targets as fast as I can financially, and my business partner can financially support the business to grow each year. We've grown over 100% a year, which you ask anybody building the business, that's incredible growth and incredible success. And there is a problem to grow too fast, and it's something I don't want to do with this brand. I want to be smart in the growth and smart in how we grow. And the downside to lots of demand is the fact that it's hard to get our product. And it's also, I feel like we're held in a little bit different standard. We're in a seasonal industry, and people still want to be able to go onto our website in January and have a complete selection of everything we make when hunting season doesn't start until September. And I get that. I want our customers to be able to have that opportunity in the future, but we are a seasonal business, and I do have to build inventory levels based on the seasonality of hunting. And a lot of times our customers forget that and they get frustrated with it. And I apologize, but it is just part of a fast growth business challenge. And I hear about it all the time. Inventory, I can never get your stuff. And so I tell them there's a reason why you can't get it. It's a really amazing product for the price. And just be patient. We have a back order system where people can put in a back order, and they'll eventually get their stuff within a couple months. But we are a seasonal business and we are fast growing, so there's only so much I can do without destroying the brand. If that makes sense.
Yeah, absolutely. And in layman's terms, speaking business, tell me the downsides if you were to way over forecast and let's say produce, the Chinook jacket and the attack pant and, down the product line and overproduce that from a standpoint of just layman's term and business. What could be the severe downside with that? Explain that to me.
Well, to do that, I would have to raise a lot of money. So now I have to bring in a financial partner. They're going to have certain expectations of performance for their money. To just throw money at inventory and be sitting on a lot of inventory is incredibly expensive, as it just sits and you wait to sell through it. And having a financial partner, and if you did that, they would come back and create challenges within the business, either having you discount it to move it, which is detrimental to a business, or make changes within the business that I don't think would be smart for KUIU. And it's much better to incrementally grow and be very efficient with capital uses and inventory purchases and realize the seasonality of our business than it is just to stockpile inventory and sit on it and hope that you'll sell it. That's the most dangerous thing you can do as a business.
and in essence have somebody else driving your company and driving what you need to be doing. In your current situation, you make the calls, you have another partner in the deal, but you are able to make all of the calls, and you don't want to be subject to, for a lack of a better term, a bunch of suits telling you what to do with your product and your company.
I've watched it happen with Sitka since I left, and the culture's changed over there. Their innovations changed, and I don't want to have decisions made for the benefit of the company when it's not the right decision for the consumer or the product. And that's what happens as you start to get corporate structure into young, innovative companies. It slows down the innovation. It makes decisions based on safety versus what's right for the product or the brand or the customer. And I've seen it happen so much. And one of my big things at KUIU is culture, and keeping the KUIU culture where it's at and not polluting it.
Okay, awesome stuff right there. Jason, let's talk a little bit about some of the products that have been launched this year.
Okay.
I just actually got my Kenai jacket, and just a fantastic piece. Tell me a little bit about the new products this year. Maybe we'll start right out with the Kenai.
I love innovation and love new concepts. We had originally started KUIU with our Spindrift jacket, which was a Primaloft piece. When I was introduced to Tori's Quicks Down technology, waterproofing down feathers, it made all the sense in the world to drop Primaloft and move into just down because of all the advantages of the water-resistant down that we could produce and the quality and how light and packable it was. I really wasn't interested in going back into synthetic insulation because of all the advantages of down until Tori came out with 3DFX, which is a continuous fiber insulation, which is significant in the insulation world. It's the first insulation we can use without a coated fabric. So what a coating does is keep the pieces of insulation from poking through the fabric. It has to be applied to synthetic insulation like Primaloft fabric that goes around that type of insulation. Also has to be put on down fabrics as well to keep the down from migrating through or poking through the fabrics. And that coating makes fabrics loud. It's what makes a light, packable down jacket scratchy, and it limits breathability significantly. I mean, to make a fabric downproof, it's basically doesn't breathe. That's why you get so sweaty hiking in a super down jacket that we make. And so the continuous fiber insulation solves the problems of having to coat a fabric. So now we get an insulation that functions totally different than any insulation we've ever used and worked with, and lets the fabrics be, one, really quiet, which we all know the advantage of that for hunting, but more importantly, it lets you be able to climb and hike in our insulation piece without really getting sweaty or clammy in it. And that solves the problem that we haven't been able to solve in the past, which before we always had to take our insulation off when you're going to go on a climb. Now in cold weather, you can climb with this insulation piece and not get sweaty and clammy underneath it. And it just kind of changes the game for a synthetic insulation piece. And it's quiet, packable, soft. You've gotten to use and handle the piece. It's totally different than any other insulation piece I've ever used.
Yeah, I mean, if there's ever a bow hunting jacket out there, and not that you can't use it for rifle hunting and sheep hunting and all the other stuff, I mean, it's so much quieter than the Super Down. And the Super Down, I got to be honest, has been one of my favorite products of KUIU's. It's always in my pack because of how lightweight it is, and you never know when you're going to need a little bit more warmth, and so I always carry it in my pack. And I just got the Kenai, and I believe you were wearing the jacket some on the colder mornings on the hunt in Montana, and I was amazed at how you just used the pit zips and were able to just keep right on trucking, and it didn't seem like you were sweating. How has the feedback been from the Kenai jacket from the customers that you've talked to?
It's been exactly what your experience has been, which is it's different, it's great, it's quiet, it's soft. The only downside to Kenai is not wind resistant. for obvious reasons. So, you're going to, on high, windy days, you're going to step on a ridge. That's where you're going to want to throw on that hard shell or your soft shell over the top of it to give you wind protection. But other than that, it's awesome. As you know, it's the most versatile insulation piece you can possibly own.
Yeah, and it is a mid-layering piece. You can certainly wear it as an outer layer, but what you're saying is high winds, you start glassing on a ridge and you've got winds, just throw your outer shell on and you're off and running.
Yep, and it's, there's, as waterproof as our down is, it's still nice to have synthetic in really wet conditions at times. And then just the versatility of it. So it's a nice addition to our line. It's and you're going to see what you haven't seen, which will get released in our new catalog, is a new line of synthetic knits that are coming out called Peloton, which is a collection of knits that are, again, synthetic and base layers, mid layers, and even kind of a semi-mid to outer layer type of style that we'll be introducing this year because it's the new fabric innovations that Tori brought to us.
Awesome. That sounds like great stuff. Let's go into some of the other products that you've released this year that are new to KUIU.
Okay. So we introduced a new Scarpa boot, and that came about really to find an additional boot to the line that we carried last year, which was by Zamberlan, which was a very stiff, which you tested, Jay, very specific to really technical high mountain sheep hunting. And I was looking for a second layer within that boot, something not as stiff, not as specific for hunting, and came across the Grand Druid GTX from Scarpa. And really what I found in testing is that it can do it all. And it's a boot that in testing that I could use from earlier season, less technical hunts all the way through sheep and goat hunts. And so we introduced that this year, and those actually release. I think I get our first shipment May 2nd. So we'll be starting to ship those in May. We introduced a new new yarn sock this year as to go along with the footwear. That's an absolutely amazing product. I'm kind of a nut about socks and liking to keep my feet dry and blister free. And the new yarn technology is proving itself in socks. It keeps my feet drier. They last longer. They perform better than any other sock I've worn. And we make those through the New Zealand Sock Company, and they are an amazing sock manufacturer. We're able to actually design in certain areas to add more padding and wear resistance to give your foot protection and make the sock last longer. And
what is it about new yarn, Jason, that separates itself from the competition?
That's a great question. If you'd go onto our site and watch the video, it'll help explain it in more detail. But briefly, what typical merino wool uses is what's called ring spun yarn. And if you think about ring spun, it's exactly what it sounds like. They just twist the fibers to make it into a yarn to then be knit into a product. What new yarn does, instead of twisting the fibers, they actually pull the fibers along a very specialized piece of nylon. And because they're not twisting those fibers tight, you get a loftier yarn. And because it's loftier, it dries faster. Because it's not twisted tight, it actually has higher abrasion resistance. And you get a fiber that performs at a lighter weight than a heavier weight fiber that's been squeezed down and twisted. And so we just get a better performing, more comfortable wearing product. And we did that in our base layer program last year. We're now doing it in socks, and it's a way better technology than ring spun fibers.
Okay. That's going to be exciting. And then I believe you just launched 5200 pack?
Well, we introduced a 3200 pack. We came out with a 2015 lineup of our Icon Pro series, which had some subtle changes to the suspension that will be for the 1850 and the 5200, 7200, and then we introduced the 3200, and that's like our full-size day pack or 2 or 3 day bivy pack if you pack light. And that size is really useful. I've used it for the last couple years, either in the 3000 and the Ultra Series, or last year been testing the Icon Pro 3200 because of all the equipment I carry and optics and like you do. It's just, you end up carrying a lot of equipment, especially being in the business, needing to film and shoot pictures. And so it's a great full-size day pack. And that's just was released this last month.
Awesome. I saw it on the website. It looked like a fantastic piece and nice addition to the pack line. I've heard you talk about before all your different products. Which one of your products would you say is the most challenging to keep up with and deliver to your customers?
Well, I think the pack line has been the most challenging product line that I've created, and part of that is the technology that we're using with carbon fiber, and the learning curve of working with carbon fiber and understanding the principles of it. But then all the advantages of understanding it, taking the time to learn it, and the expense to learn on what you're working with, because carbon fiber is just an amazing material. I mean, it's really light. If you understand the principles of it, on how you mold it, engineer it, you can make a product that outperforms any other material in the world. But if you don't, it can be fragile, it can be delicate, and it can cause failures. And so there's been a bit of a learning curve with where our packs started and where they are today. But it's been well worth the effort and the work on understanding this technology. And then, now we've got patents around our designs, and we've got a platform now that, weighs less than everybody else's, functions and feels better than any other material for a pack frame. And I truly believe that it's the future of backpacks and where the pack industry will go because of all the advantages of it. It's been the most challenging. It's also been the most rewarding, and my favorite product that we've ever created at KUIU is certainly the Icon and Ultra Pack series, with how well they function and the modularity and all the problems they solve for the hunter.
I've been using them for years and really like. I've been using the Icon 7200, the Icon Pro 7200, and on the sheep hunts, coos deer hunts, elk hunts, it's just a phenomenal pack. The thing I like about it is, when you need it to be able to carry and have a huge capacity, you can. When you don't, you can use some of the buckles and straps, and it's, it basically shrinks down to, kind of like a small day pack. So I really enjoy that pack.
Yeah.
Jason, go ahead.
No, they're just an amazingly versatile pack setup, and there's just a lot of advantages. So yeah, I'm glad you like it so much.
I want to talk to you, shift gears a little bit, and talk to you about your love for hunting, and have you tell me about, from my perspective, you go on hunts that, the founders and CEOs of other presidents of other companies don't go on. You seem to like pain. You seem to like things going horribly bad and weather conditions. You seem to thrive on that. I know you went on a glacier stone sheep hunt. I know you went on a grizzly bear hunt. Could you maybe tell me a little bit about both of those and the pain experiencing hunts, why you enjoy that?
I guess it's
I mean, it seems like you're just always up for a challenge. I know when we were coos deer hunting, it was like, we can glass from here, and you're like, well, what about that peak up there? It was almost like you just wanted to push the envelope at all times.
Well, I guess that's what makes memories, right? I always remember the hard hunts. Don't necessarily always remember the easy ones. It's my DNA, I suppose. And now for KUIU, it's the best way to test product. And also, it seems like when I book a hunt up north, the guides are always like, oh, good, there's this one area we've always wanted to get into, but we've never had anybody that's willing to walk in there, or that's technically sound enough to spend a week on glaciers. And then some of it's just, whether you call it bad luck or good luck. I've had some hunts where the weather's been challenged, like the grizzly bear hunt we just did. Flying in, we knew the weather was coming. We didn't know it was going to get as cold as it ended up getting, but we had area we went into, you get dropped off at the headwaters of this little drainage that eventually turns into a river after you walk for 3 days, and then you put your boats in the water. But it got really cold, and the challenge we had is you can't get out for 90 miles. There's no place for a plane to pick you up, so you are committed once you're dropped off. And the weather turned really cold, froze the river, and we spent 9 days traveling 90 miles just to get out. All the bears disappeared because of the cold weather. They basically pre-hibernated, and became just a trip of survival. Minus 20 degrees Fahrenheit at night, highs at 10, and just everything completely frozen solid. But the trip was awesome. We got great photography, great videography. I was able to test our gear in the worst conditions, staying in our tents and our sleeping bags in minus 20 at night. Certainly could tell our customers, that our gear will work in those conditions, and learned a lot about it. And then, you become a better gear builder and connoisseur than if the weather's nice or the trip's easy. I mean, certainly, as you know, the harder trips and the tough weather are what defines gear, equipment, and yourself.
Yeah, some of the stuff that Brendan was telling me about. I believe Brendan was on that trip with you, and then on your stone sheep hunt. I think you guys had some serious, dangerous stuff with the sinkholes and having crampons on all day. Talk a little bit about why you love sheep hunting so much, and why I heard you say earlier you go on a sheep hunt every year no matter what. Why sheep? I love them like you, but why do you go? Why is that so important to you?
The terrain, the weather, the variables that you get on hunting sheep, whether it's stone sheep or dull sheep, are so wide-ranging and so challenging that you can't duplicate it doing anything else. And that's where we'll truly find the shortcomings of our gear. And it's also, the DNA of our brand. I want to build stuff that excels in those conditions. And so the only way for me to know whether we're succeeding is to personally take the gear into those conditions. I can't rely on somebody, getting back to me and saying, yeah, I think it worked pretty well. I need to be there to experience it. Mentally, physically, emotionally, as part of the culture of our brand. And that's what I love about it. The trip we did this year was something I hadn't done before. We were in crampons every single day, and in some really dangerous stuff that we probably had no business being in, but we did it and survived it, and got a couple really nice animals out of the trip. But it let us really learn a lot about our equipment and about ourselves. For instance, I've got a new one-man tent coming out that I purposely shouldn't have taken into stone sheep country. I did it anyways just to test it, and we got absolutely pounded by weather. And I can tell you that this one-man tent that weighs 18 ounces and uses a trekking pole as a support can survive a 70-mile-an-hour gusts of wind sitting up exposed on a glacial moraine in northern BC. But I couldn't do that unless I was up there doing it myself.
Absolutely. Jason, I know you well enough to know that when talking about a hunt, when I talk to you about a hunt, you don't say I shot a 100 and whatever inch da-da-da, or I shot a 500 inch this or that. And tell me about hunting for you. I know it's more about the adventure, and while you like to shoot big things, just like anybody that ever goes hunting or that goes fishing likes to catch a big fish, when I coos deer hunted with you, it was never about score. You never even talked about score. You saw bucks that you liked characteristics of the buck, and it's more about the adventure. On the elk hunt, you were just enjoying the bugling and having a great time. I honestly witnessed you not really caring about score. Talk to me a little bit how your attitude is with just enjoying the hunt for what it is, as opposed to coming home with a trophy that scores X, Y, or Z.
I always say the mountain will give you what you're supposed to have, and so I can't stress about score. Now, I'm like you. If I have a chance to shoot something giant, absolutely I want to, but I'm not going to, that size of the animal is not going to dictate whether the trip was a success or not, or enjoyable or not. And I've just never been that way. And if the mountain wants to give me a giant animal for my hard work, great. If it doesn't want to, I look at it as it's just not supposed to happen. I mean, my stone sheep hunt this year, the very first day we saw an absolute huge ram, and we worked for 9 days to relocate that ram. We never found him. And finally we had to I wanted to make sure I shot a ram, so we shot one at the end of the hunt. And I'm totally thrilled with the ram we killed. It just wasn't meant to be to get that big, huge, giant one that disappeared on us on the first day. And it's just the way it is. I think over time, over time the big animals will come if you're just patient and take what is given to you. But there's only so much you can do, and I'm not going to take away all the great things about the trip just because I didn't get a certain score on an animal.
Yeah, I understand that completely. I want to shift gears completely here, take a 90-degree turn, and ask you kind of a couple personal questions. One is, maybe people don't know that you were an outstanding football player as a youth and into college and then even into the pros. Can you talk to me a little bit about growing up and your love for football and how it maybe has shaped some of the decisions that you've made in your business life and such? What kind of role football has played?
Yeah, I mean, sports in general. Actually, I was a terrible football player as a youth.
Were you?
I was cut from 2 junior All-American football teams, and I think that's what created my drive to be successful at football when I finally matured and grew into my body. But literally, I was cut from 2 teams in a row. I couldn't even make the team. And then when I finally did make the team, I was the kid that got put in for the 4 minimum plays that were required at the end of the game. I was that kid. And then, but I always told myself someday I'm going to be a good football player. And I just kept studying the game and watching watching the guys that were successful, what they did, and became a student of it. And then as I matured into high school, I was kind of a late bloomer. And then got into University of California, Davis, when I really started to peak my freshman and sophomore years in college. I had the drive and determination to be as good as possible as I could be at football. And the next thing I know, I was getting looked at for the pros and picked up by the Niners in 95 and the Broncos in 96. And, it's I guess I'm just a grinder. And ground through the challenges of not making football teams and studying and becoming a student of the game to be successful enough to get to the NFL level. And that's translated over to work for sure, because there is nothing harder than building a company from the ground up. And it's why 97% of them fail. 97% of new businesses don't make it. And really successful businesses are incredibly hard to build and stay with. And what I learned of the hard work and the fundamentals you have to do in football and sports are the same hard work and fundamentals you have to do for building companies. And I get people that come to me with ideas all the time that say, hey, I want to build this, or I think this product would be great, I want to build a company around it. It's like, that's great, I'm sure it could be successful, but do the hard work first and build a business plan, do the fundamentals, just like what you've done with real estate, Jay. You and I have talked about it. I mean, there's the non-romantic hard work a lot of people don't want to put in are the things that you have to do to be successful, whether it's football, whether it's hunting, or whether it's business.
Yeah, that's great advice right there, and certainly, a lot of people see the fruits of your labor, but they don't see the actual in the trenches, every day traveling and working your brains out. And I know with your brand, knowing you like I do, it's on your mind at all times, and you are an all-in type of guy, and I think that's why KUIU, the company, has been so successful. I think that's why the brand and the following has been so successful. Is you virtually lead from the top down. Everything starts with you. You accept all of the responsibilities for the failures. You don't spend much time gloating on your successes, and you're constantly tinkering and trying to find the next best thing that will make your company better. And I think from a consumer side of it, looking at it, that's why KUIU is what it is today, is because your drive. And I think hearing your story about being cut on the football teams. I mean, it takes a few of those things to knock you down, to realize and make you have that burning desire in your belly to want to be better, and to not ever be that person that gets cut again. Because once you feel that, and maybe you can elaborate, once you feel that burn and that you feel slighted and you feel hurt, that you decide that will never be me again, and you just pick yourself up and you charge forward, you fix bayonets and you go. And I think that's why KUIU probably is the success story that it is today.
Yeah, I mean, when Jonathan and our CFO decided to sell Sitka to Gore, I was very much against it and forced to accept it. And just like what you're talking about, I mean, that same feeling that I had when I was cut playing football, and I was like, that's never going to happen again. And it's part of the reason why I built KUIU the way I built it, and not wanting to bring in outside investors because of those challenges that it created for Sitka and for me, and never wanting to ever have to go back to that situation. And certainly, creates motivation and defines, I think it defines people is the hard times. It's like what you asked about on the hunts. Why do you like to go on these really challenging hunts? It's how you find your edges. I mean, you find out how tough you really are. And, it can be that in business and life and sports. I guess it's kind of followed me around my whole life.
My grandfather, I called him Papa. He's no longer with us, but he always told me, I would say, well, that guy's doing good. And he'd look over and he'd say, you never know how good you really are until you're all the way down. You make it, and then you're all the way down, and then you got to build it back up again. Yeah. He said the people that can be there and then be knocked down to the ground and come back and rise. He always had an admiration for those type of guys that could, face defeat straight on and defeat in different ways. Yep. And then pick themselves up and rise higher and better and go further than they ever thought they could. And
true.
Yeah, so that's awesome stuff.
I know when I was starting KUIU, my wife and I are sitting there, and she's like, "You sure you can do this?" And I said, "I need to do it." I said, I go, "This brand will define whether I was lucky or I'm good, because you can always get lucky. Sitka could have been in the right place at the right time with the right products, and a lot of that's luck. But to do it a second time and to make it work and stick." You find out whether you're good at a craft or good at building companies, and it is starting from that scratch again and having to do it all over again.
Yeah, and I think that's an encouragement to the people listening. If you're working on a business or whatever you're working on, if you go all in and you don't take no for an answer, and you believe in what you're doing, you can succeed, and you just make it happen. And there's going to be hurdles, and there's going to be things that are setbacks, but you absolutely charge forward and jump over the hurdles, go around the hurdles, go under the hurdles, whatever it takes, and you will be successful. So I listen to your story and just hear the passion in your voice, and knowing you, I mean, the way you are on this podcast is exactly how you are in person. You are an all-in person, and I think that speaks volumes for your character. Jason, I've really appreciated talking to you today. I got one quick question for you. I saw in a video, I believe it was when you were introducing the boots, you had a hoodie on. And I know you're teasing all us customers out here. What was that hoodie, and is that something that may come in the future product line?
I have no idea what you're talking about.
Yeah.
Actually, we've had, I can't tell you, countless requests for us to do a hoodie. And all I can say is you're going to have lots of choices in hoodies in the next 60 to 90 days from KUIU, and they'll be the best hoodies anyone's ever worn or used.
That's awesome. I can't wait for that. I know some other guys on the forum were talking about it and are maybe on the comments section.
Yep.
So I had to throw that out there. Jason, do you have any hunts coming up this spring? I know I've got a bunch of turkey hunts staring me right in the face. Actually, California. I leave next week for California turkey hunts. Do you have anything coming up this spring, or you've got work slated on the agenda?
In May, I'm heading back up to hunt with Lance to try to fill that bear tag that I have that we got frozen out of in October. I'm really excited about that. I am taking my 7.5-year-old son to a ranch in Texas in April, where he's going to be able to use a 243 that I gave him for Christmas to shoot and harvest his first big game animal, hopefully. Can't wait for that, and then we'll do some local turkey hunts around here. So got a pretty full spring, and then I'm heading to Spain and to Europe to go meet with suppliers in June. So busy spring.
Cool. And has the fall already been shaping up for you, or do you have anything planned for the fall yet?
Yeah, I'll be up in Northwest Territories in August for sheep, back to the same ranch in Montana for elk, and then I'm taking my dad to the Yukon for a moose hunt with our longbows.
Ooh, that ought to be exciting.
Wanted to shoot a moose, and he's 70, and I gave it to him for his 70th birthday this year.
Awesome. That's pretty neat that you can reward your dad back for all the things that he did for you when you were a kid. So congratulations on that, and congrats on building such an awesome brand and company. And we are so thankful that you're on the show with us here, and we look forward to having you on again and giving us updates on what you have going.
We need to mark this up. This is my first podcast. I'm excited that it's with you, and I just want to say thanks for your interest in what I'm doing, and great questions, and always good to talk to you, and I appreciate what you've done for the industry, and I'm happy to support what you're doing any way I can.
Thank you, buddy. Sounds good. Tell the family hello, and I don't even have to say it, but I know you're going to keep tinkering. I know you're going to keep messing around with stuff, keep testing, and continue to make the best products in the entire hunting industry.
Thanks, Jay. You have a good week. Right. I'll be in touch.
All right, buddy. Take care.
All right, bye-bye.